He is the hero of Mobius and the protector of Earth. We all know him, you all love him, Sonic the Hedgehog, a speedster with a carefree attitude. But this time, in today's video, we're going to be changing that a little bit, because instead of being the relaxed, heroic hedgehog we remember, he's going to be the heroic but slightly serious hedgehog. This is a sequel of sorts to my previous video, What If Eggman Was Serious, where we elevated Eggman's willingness to do harsher acts to achieve his goal with more certainty. Now, for Sonic, it's not going to be a one-to-one translation. These are different characters, and unlike the Doctor, the Blue Blur has a higher moral standard, but we're still going to tweak it. Sonic is going to do things that perhaps he would be hesitant to do in the normal timeline, but this doesn't mean he's going to be killing everyone who looks at him funny on the street, because whilst this will be more serious, it's still Sonic at the end of the day, and you need to respect the character. There are scenarios where even the normal Sonic might end up killing somebody, but they're just going to be slightly more likely in this one, but don't expect him to kill everyone all the time. That's not what this video is about. This is a serious look at a more serious Sonic. With that all out the way, let's start at the beginning of the adventure. Picture this. You're a blue hedgehog. You love running around, spending time outdoors on your home of South Island. But one day, this strange mustache man arrives with all these machines, and it begins to take over your homeland, roboticizing the inhabitants, spreading plague, disease, and industry, polluting your environment, digging up the earth in search for strange gemstones, and generally just giving off a bad vibe. So you get your 2 fleet feet and you start running around, bashing bots, saving lives, and ultimately confronting the Doctor at his base at the end of it all, where in a climactic finish you end up destroying his boss mech and critically damaging his Eggmobile, and you watch as it splutters and fails into a deep, dark crevice. Perhaps this stranger was killed, perhaps he survived. You don't know. All you care about is your home is safe. You run back where you came from, you return the Chaos Emeralds where they belong, and you take in a deep breath, hoping that that was a one-time thing. But then, some time later, on one of your explorations across the world, you find yourself at Little Planet, but it looks changed. It's not how the stories told it. There's strange objects on the surface, and most notably a giant chain tethering it to the world on a mountain. And on this mountain's face is a familiar mustached one carved into the stone, signaling to you what might have happened to this poor planet. And so you run up onto Little Planet, determined to sort out whatever's gone on. Clearly that bald man is back. Once you arrive, you come across a pink hedgehog. Never met her before, but she seems to be a big fan of you. But you came here for something a bit more important than signing autographs. Around this time, a strange challenger approaches, barreling through the terrain, and kidnaps the girl. And strangely enough, it looks like a robotic copy of you. This is a problem. It's both insulting and dangerous. So you now set off chasing this metal doppelganger throughout the crazy world of Little Planet, through the past, present, and future, collecting the time stones, destroying Eggman's machines, until once again you can confront against the man himself. However, whilst your final fight is taking place, the arena starts falling apart and becoming unstable, allowing him to escape. But this isn't the end of the story, and it's where one of the first major changes with a serious Sonic actually takes place. With the time stones at his disposal, Sonic can rewind the clock, and he's going to bring time back right before the Doctor first stepped onto Little Planet. So when he arrives this time, Sonic the Hedgehog is ready and waiting, and is able to deliver him a beatdown severe enough to force him to retreat before he ever managed to start spreading his corruption onto the small planet. Now you might be wondering, Will Sonic kill Eggman here? My answer? No. He thinks he's truly beaten the Doctor at this point. He controlled time, obviously only for Little Planet, but the point is, he controls time there, Eggman has arrived, and he's been beaten, and Eggman doesn't know how Sonic knew what was going on. He can theorise that perhaps Sonic discovered the Time Stones, but ultimately he's forced to leave with an incomplete plan and a severely wounded ego, and Sonic is able to celebrate in his success. The planet, because of time travel, was never harmed, and Eggman didn't get what he wanted. So killing him seems unnecessary. You've already sent the message and stopped him in his tracks. More time passes since the encounter at Little Planet, but ultimately, as you may expect, Dr. Eggman didn't quite learn his lesson and is back at it again in search for the 7th Chaos Emerald, which is going to bring Sonic back to action. His job is not to save the planet, of course, but he can't help but feel like perhaps he has some responsibility here since he didn't confirm the Doctor was stopped last time. Plus, he happens to be in the area, so why wouldn't he help out? On his way to the action, he encounters a twin-tailed fox getting bullied and helps settle things straight before moving on. Little does he know, this act will inspire the fox to follow him, and to his surprise, it turns out the kid's actually pretty fast. Unfortunately for Tails, he's in the wrong timeline, because whilst in the past we've seen Sonic take on Tails as an understudy, this time it won't be so pleasant. You see, Sonic, being more serious here, isn't going to be okay with a kid he barely knows following him against a man he knows for a fact is quite dangerous. So, whilst during Emerald Hill, Tails will tag along with Sonic, at certain points Sonic's going to have to protect him from surprise attack badniks, and after they battle and defeat the Doctor in his drill car boss, he's probably going to have to talk Tails down and tell him he can't follow him, he's going alone, he appreciates the help, but this is no place for children, and then zip away without Tails. How hard Tails takes that on a personal level is up for debate, but the main thing is, Sonic is going alone here. Aside from that change, the rest of the game's going to be pretty similar. Sonic's going to be collecting the Chaos Emeralds, he's going to be defeating Eggman's bosses along the way, until we get to the Death Egg launch, because Tails isn't there to fly the tornado. However, Sonic has all 7 Chaos Emeralds, he doesn't need the tornado. Super Sonic will ascend into the sky to hunt Eggman down in his space station, and once he arrives, he'll come face to face with Mecha Sonic Mark 1, otherwise known as Silver Sonic. Seeing this boss, seeing this copy of him, just like the one he saw on Little Planet, is going to start piecing things together for Sonic the Hedgehog. He's going to realise that Dr. Eggman is using him as a case study to build ever more threatening, ever more dangerous robot copies. So the responsibility Sonic's going to feel on his own role in this will be increased, because he's realised if he keeps letting Eggman get away, the Doctor's going to keep on refining the designs based on the blue blur until maybe one day he won't be able to stop them, and then what will he do? So, after defeating this copy, which doesn't stand a chance against Super Sonic, he barrels through to that final chamber where Eggman is in the Death Egg robot, and they have their fight, but this machine can't stop Super Sonic. In a way that's kind of reminiscent to the opening of Sonic Unleashed, the Death Egg robot will be pulled apart limb from limb by Super Sonic, and as it's being destroyed, Dr. Eggman will plead to the Hedgehog to spare him, to say he's learned his lesson, and that if he lets him go, he won't try something like this ever again. And Super Sonic will ponder that for a moment, because he doesn't really want to hurt anybody, he's just trying to stop this guy from causing harm to others. But then he remembers how Little Planet turned out when he thought he made the right choice last time. Then he remembers the metal copy stealing that girl away, or how there was another one waiting right here. Then he remembers that innocent boy Tails, who could have got wrapped up in all of this if Sonic wasn't around. So, Super Sonic declines the plea and barrels straight through the chest piece of the Death Egg robot, causing it to explode, and with the same action, he crashes out the space station, causing a chain explosion just like in the normal game that sends it toppling back down to Earth. And as it crashes, Supersonic looks down with a solemn gaze, uncertain of if he just made the right call. He also, in the back of his mind, knows he hasn't confirmed if Eggman's dead or alive, but he's assuming a fall from space would kill just about anyone, and he really doesn't want to have to confirm that detail if he was being truthful to himself. So, after the day is done, he will return to the surface. The wreckage of Eggman's masterpiece will crash on the Angel Island, just like it does in the normal timeline. However, the Doctor's condition is far more severe. Sonic's attack didn't kill him, but he is mortally wounded. Fatally so, if not thanks to some of his surviving machines keeping him in a somewhat stable condition. But he is by and large out of the picture at the beginning of what will be Sonic 3. Instead, one of the Egg Robos, specifically the one that takes charge during Knuckles' campaign, will do the plans for the Doctor while he recovers. So this robot will communicate with Knuckles and end up tricking him in the same way Eggman would have done normally, so that Knuckles will be there to help them, but also so that they can study and learn more about the Master Emerald under the guise of being a fellow protector. Some days later, Sonic will make his way towards Angel Island. During the time since his last defeat of Eggman, it just didn't sit right with him. There has been a nagging feeling in the back of his mind that he needs to make sure nothing bad's going on. He needs to check the wreckage to confirm the KIA. And so Supersonic will skate across the ocean to the island without Tails this time, because as we've seen in Sonic 2, they're not as close as they usually were. Tails to Sonic is just some kid who he found in a bad place, so we don't really know what Tails is up to. However, just like the normal timeline, once Sonic crosses the territorial borders, he will get uppercutted by Knuckles, losing the Chaos Emeralds. The Echidna will laugh at him, cursing him trying to steal his jewels, and then run off with the Emeralds. But this Sonic is here on a mission, and whilst he doesn't know what this red guy's problem is, he's not going to let him get away with that. Using his superior speed, he will quickly find Knuckles, kick him in the back, pin him to the ground, retrieve his Chaos Emeralds, maybe spin dash him for good measure, and then leave. Knuckles isn't a pushover, but neither is Sonic, and with the element of speed and surprise, he will probably be able to, at the very least, wrestle the Emeralds back from Knuckles' control. So, for what you remember of Sonic 3, Sonic is using his superpowers, blasting through. Yes, Angel Island will still get set on fire, and many of the boss fights will still take place. It will just barely be a challenge for Sonic as he uses the power of the Chaos Emeralds to get through it all. But the Egg Robo is fine with this. In fact, it wants this to happen. It has used the data from Eggman's past encounters with Sonic to summarize that this hedgehog will probably challenge him, and will probably challenge him with the power of the Chaos Emeralds. Knuckles may delay that, but it's certain Sonic will find some way of getting them back. So with this in mind, its plan is not to resurrect the Death Egg like Eggman's was in the original. For a start, this time Supersonic did so much damage to that space station it probably can't take off again, but even if that wasn't the case, he knows that it would likely get blown up again, just like it did the first time. So the Egg Robo's plan instead is to use the Master Emerald to create super powerful Sonic doppelgangers that they can ambush the Hedgehog and hopefully take him out for good. Before Dr. Eggman was put in critical condition, he was working on a second Mecha Sonic that would be even better than the robot that Sonic trashed on the Death Egg. So the Egg Robo can try and complete this newer model and use its studies of the Master Emerald to enhance it beyond what Eggman's original plans were. And so, Sonic will arrive at what was once known as Launch Base Zone. I guess here we could call it Egg Crater Zone or something like that. Point is, it's the impact site of the Death Egg. But he gets here too late. because once he arrives, he catches what seems to be another robot copy of himself stood on top of a ginormous Chaos Emerald. As its energy surges into the robot's circuits, it sparks to life, and its dark blue metallic sheen becomes a brilliant gold. Super Mecha Sonic is the challenge that Super Sonic will have to face down. Meanwhile, Egg Robo watches from within the Big Arms boss mech. The two hedgehogs will bash it out. Sonic hasn't come across anything as powerful as Mecha Sonic in his entire existence. The fact that it can match his super form was something he had not anticipated, and so it's a brutal fight. His head gets slammed into the side of the crater, Sonic spins into its metal frame, but the sparks don't do anything. Its metal frame isn't even dented from the attack, but Sonic's organic body doesn't do so well when struck by super-powered metal fists. Of course, he's not going to roll over and die, but he realises it's going to take some severe feats of skill to come out on top of this one. All the whilst, he's aware that somewhere that robotic Eggman is up to something. The pressure is on, but an unexpected aid arrives. Cresting over the lip of the crater, bruised but alive, is Knuckles. And seeing the Master Emerald being used by who he believed was supposed to be allies sets him enraged. He's been betrayed and tossed aside, his homeland nothing more than a convenient battlefield for these two strangers. And this fury is sensed by the Master Emerald, and through this connection, his emotions are turned into power, and his thought of revenge supercharges the Chaos Emeralds, enhancing them into the Super Emeralds we see in Sonic 3 and Knuckles. In an instant, the Echidna flashes bright pink and enters his hyper form, flying straight down towards Super Mecha Sonic. The real Hedgehog, feeling the power enhanced by these new emeralds, is also taken over by emotion, feeling the pure rage coming from Knuckles, and it sets off his transformation into Hyper Sonic. Powerful as it is, this Mecha Sonic isn't able to fight two hyper forms. It's taken out almost as easily as you would destroy a motorbug. Knuckles tearing through its torso, separating the head from the body with a hyper-powered glide. Meanwhile, Hyper Sonic, at a bolt faster than the speed of sound, pelts its head with his foot, crashing through the giant Big Arms boss robot like a cannonball, destroying both it and the Egg Robo piloting it in one big explosion. Then the two hyper creatures look at one another, fists raised. But they can understand what's gone on here. Knuckles has been had, and Sonic's main concern has just been dealt with. So whilst on no friendly terms by any means, the two of them power down and agree to go their separate ways. Knuckles tells Sonic he can never come back here, he is not welcome here, and Sonic has no intention on returning. He takes the Chaos Emeralds that have returned to their normal form and leaves. Knuckles collects the Master Emerald to return it to where it should be, and the Death Egg wreckage is left alone. However, beyond the awareness of anyone else, deep within the remains of the Death Egg, Dr. Robotnik stirs. His recovery process is now complete, and whilst parts of him will never be the same, with the aid of his own technology, he's back up and operational. It would be fair, perhaps, to call this Metal Robotnik. Quite different, eh? Dr. Eggman has gone down a completely different road, learning different lessons about himself and his new adversary, Sonic the Hedgehog. Meanwhile, the Blue Blur has made less friends, with Tails being rejected and Knuckles being left alone on Angel Island, seemingly forever. How is this going to affect the future events, you may ask? Well, in short, probably in big ways. But this is the end of this video. So what I'm going to do is ask that if you want to see how this story could continue, let me know in the comments. Tell me what you think would happen, and tell me if you want to see my take on what could happen, because I've got a couple other ideas I might want to do, so I'll only continue this if you guys show that you do want to see more of this specific story. But regardless, I hope you enjoyed what was here today, and thank you for watching it all the way to the end. I hope you have a good day, and to see you next time. This is the Mighty Emperor, signing off.